Hi, this is Rabbi Chaim Kaufman. Welcome to our 247th installment in the Torah portion of the week. We're holding by Parshas Vayishlach. Another packed Parsha. Parshas Vayishlach talks about the confrontation between Esav and Yaakov. We have the struggle with the angel. We have prohibition of Gid Anoshe, of eating the hind of an animal. And we also have about Dinah's abduction, the destruction of Shechem, and all that. So the death of Rachel, the birth of Binyamin. So there's a lot here. So we're going to speak about the very beginning, and this gift that Yaakov's going to give to Esav. Now, Yaakov sends angels ahead, etc. Send messengers. Interesting why he sends messengers to Esav. And Yaakov prays, and he gives him a gift. Right, verse 14, he spent the night there, from which he had come. In his hand, tribute to Esav, his brother, 200 she-goats, 20 he-goats, 200 ewes, 20 rams, 30 nursing camels, and their coats, 40 cows, 10 bulls, 20 she-donkeys, 10 he-donkeys. Gives them a gift. Tremendous gift. Right, so the three things that when we encounter Esav, right, Rashi says that Yaakov did. That what Yaakov was prepared to do. Right, first thing is he gave him a gift. Bribed him. Gave him a gift. Because we see over here that Esav can be bribed. And Esav is bribed. Because he has a lot of compassion. He doesn't kill Yaakov. Tried to, the Medrash says. He fell on his neck, tried to bite him, kill him, and his neck turned to steel. Couldn't do it. But in any case, he gave him a gift. Right, there's also prayer. Right, he's going to pray for salvation. That God should help him. And if God forbid none of these work, then he has to go to war. Then he's got no choice. Then he has to go to war. So he'll go to war if he has to. But it's not the first choice. Now let's go back to the first choice. Let's understand. Esav has plenty. And that's what he says. Right? He says, I don't need this, I have plenty. He maybe felt pretty good because now that Yaakov's wealthy, Yaakov has a lot. Right? So his spirituality is going to go down. So there's a theme. There's a theme. When we do the right thing, the Jewish people are up here, Esav goes down. The Western world goes down. When we do the wrong thing, the Western world's up here, and we go down. Alright? Seemingly where we are today. Even though the Orthodox Torah is flourishing, nonetheless, we're not on top. We're definitely not on top. But the idea here is that we see Esav can be bribed. And when a person comes in contact with Esav, with the non-Jew in the Western world, he can be bribed. So the Chofetz Chaim tells the story. There was a certain decree in Radin, terrible decree that was made, and the Chofetz Chaim told the students, he says, I want you to bribe the king. I want you to go. I want you to give a lot of money to the king, and I want you to get rid of this decree. So the student is terrified, absolutely terrified. He said, the king's going to kill me. I'm never going to come out alive. Chofetz Chaim says, you give him a lot of money, no problem. He'll take care of the decree. So the student goes in, goes to the king. He's got this bag of money, gold, silver, the whole works. And he tells the king, I come in the name of the Jewish people here. This terrible decree that's been made, and I want the king to annul. I want the king to nullify over here this decree. king looks at him. It's like, why would I nullify this decree? Just because you came, you want me to nullify the decree? So the student puts the sack down on the table. The king looks inside. And he screams. He says, what, do you think you can bribe the king? You think I'm bribable over here? I can put you in jail for life trying to bribe the king. And he throws him out and he runs away. Right? The student runs away and comes back to the Chofetz Chaim. The student says, I did exactly what the Chofetz Chaim said. He said, the king looked at the money and he accused me of trying to bribe him and he threw me out. So Chofetz Chaim tells him, go back, bring even more money, a lot more money. And when you bring a lot more money, he'll nullify the decree. So he's terrified again. Goes back to the palace, goes to the king with even more money, jewels, and all that. And he goes in front of the king, same story. And he puts down the sack on the table. The king looks inside, and he looks at this yeshiva student, and he screams at him, what, do you think you can bribe me? I can put you in jail. You'll never see the light of day. And he flees again. And that's it. I'm done. He goes back to Chofetz Chaim. He said, Rebbe, it didn't work. The Chofetz Chaim turned around and he said, listen, I told you, you have to give the king a ton of money. If you give the king a ton of money, he's going to annul the decree. So he said, when I said a ton, I mean a ton. Give him a lot of money. Bribe him. He will annul the decree. So with no choice, he goes back to the king. Puts in a lot more money. Right? Sack he can barely carry. He's got so much money and jewels. Finally gets to the king again. King looks at him and says, you again? And he says, I want you to know the decree. For the against the Jewish people. So this time he takes a sack, he can barely lift it, and he puts it on the table, like the table's like wobbling because of how much money's there. And how many jewels and all that. So the king looks in the bag. He looks at the student, looks back in the bag, looks at the student, and he says, okay, not a problem. I'm going to write it up right now. The decree is annulled. Right? And he writes it up. The decree is annulled. And the yeshiva student's ecstatic. Can't believe it. He says, thank you very much, king. Whatever. And the decree gets annulled. Comes back to the Chofetz Chaim. Makes his way back to the Chofetz Chaim. Says, Rebbe, you'll never believe what happened. I filled the sack to the top. I could barely carry it. And I gave it to the king. And he looked and he looked and he looked. And he knows the decree. He knows the decree. Chofetz Chaim said, of course he knows the decree. He said, he's Esav. He's Esav over here. We see from the Parsha, Esav can be bribed. So the fact he went the first time, he went the second time, I knew you didn't give enough money. Because if you would have given that amount of money you did the third time, the king would have annulled it straight away. Because Esav can be bribed. Esav can be bribed. Alright, so someone is in a tough situation. They live in the Western world. Now you obviously got to be careful here. Right? But a person can be bribed. Esav can be bribed. Bribes work. You know why they work? Because the Torah tells me here. Now, maybe you have some individuals, maybe, they're so honest they would never be bribed. Okay. Right? But if they're an offshoot of Esav, that means they can be bribed. And now we have to understand, Esav himself hates Yaakov, despises Yaakov. He despises him because he got tricked. And he lost the blessing. You tell me. He would have abused the blessing as we mentioned last week. He really didn't deserve the blessing, so he deserved to have it taken away. Okay. But over here, he had so much venom, so much animosity, so much hatred. The Medrash says he wanted to kill him. And he wasn't successful. But we see as well he melted. He wilted over here. Carbon's language, he was a wuss. He took the bribe. It brought him down many, many levels. Sure, he's got big gaiva. Very conceited. Powerful, this, that. But you know what? The bigger they are, the more they can be bribed. And we see it all the time. Or maybe it's under the carpet, but isn't that what goes on in government today? Kickbacks. Outright bribes. There's absolute corruption in government. All over. Doesn't matter where. Nobody's squeaky clean. One thing I remember I learned in 9th grade, my social studies class. Power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Persons in power, first of all, they'll do whatever they can to stay in power. But then everyone wants favors. He wants favors. So there's bribery. There are kickbacks in many different forms. Is what goes on. I don't think I'm saying anything novel here. Right? But we're pointing out why is that the case. Because Esav put that in the world. Esav was Edom, who represents the Western world. He put that in the world. This idea that I can be bribed. If not for that, we'd live in a different world today. Judges can be bribed. Because they come from Esav. So if a person's down and out, and they're not necessarily worried about getting caught, hopefully they don't get caught. Right? This is a good way out. Because everyone has a price. Right? In the Western world, everyone has a price. It's only a matter of how high you have to go. Now, is it really true? Everybody. Remember, way back when, these people had certain character traits, they passed them down. We say, Ma'aseh Avos Simon Labanim. The actions of our forefathers are a sign for us. The fact that Avram can go through different trials and tribulations gives us the ability to. See, but even non-Jews, they have certain character traits. They pass them down to their progeny. Right? We see by Yishmael. Yishmael's a wild man. He's got the hands in everybody, and everyone's got a hand in him. Means he's a thief. Essentially, he's a thief. See, look, today here in Israel, in other places also, right, the majority of things when they get stolen, right, especially here in Israel, who are the thieves in general? Arabs. They're going to say, that's racist. That's an unbelievable racist thing to do, to say. You're right, maybe it is racist. Right, but this is what the Torah says. This is what the Torah says the progeny is going to do, not what I say. Nobody cares what I say. It's about what the Torah says. And if you were to tell me, well, it's socioeconomic situation, they have about this, that, the bottom line is that's what they do. You like it, you don't like it, that's the bottom line. So he also passed down things. He passed down that Esav passes down many things. One of them being the ability to be bribed. So the Chofetz Chaim is teaching you a fundamental principle. He's telling you if you're in a country, you're in the Western world, there's, God forbid, a bad decree against the Jews. You gotta have prayer, for sure. You gotta be prepared to fight as well. But what's the first thing you do? What's the first line of defense? First line of defense is guilt, money, bribes. That's what works. We know it works, the Chofetz Chaim says. Because good old Uncle Esav, he's the one that brought that to the world and gave it over to his kids. So the Chofetz Chaim understood. You give enough money, you give the king enough money, no more decree. But you gotta give him something mechubadik. It has to be honorable. You gotta give him a lot. Because if you don't give him a lot, guess what? You're not gonna uproot the decree. Right? And 2 times, the student goes, strikes out. The Chofetz Chaim knew you didn't give enough. Because Esav can be bribed. So what's the lesson we take out from here? Push comes to shove, that's what we'll do. Right? Saving lives from bad decrees and all that. Right? That's using something that means that's okay. Because if there's a terrible decree, you do whatever it takes to get it taken care of, to get it annulled. But at the same time, we, the Jewish people, we have to be squeaky clean. We have to be squeaky clean when it comes to money. We have to be squeaky clean by being judges in all our actions. No matter what happens, we cannot be bribed. Forbidden, certainly, to take a bribe. Right? That's talking about a rabbinic court judge. But we have to live our lives in an impeccable way. We don't want to give non-Jews the ability to say, oh, look what the Jews did over here. One person does something wrong. Blame all the Jews. We're in a bank. We wait in line. We're quiet. We're not screaming on our phones. Gotta be a mensch. Gotta act properly so a person will say, thank God his Rebbe taught him Torah. Thank God his father taught him Torah. We gotta work hard. That's what we're here for. We want to be the best Jews we can be. The best JITs, Jews in training we can be. And the best Noahites we can be. That's what God wants. But if the Jews are the light into nations, we have to act like it. We have to show. Based on Torah mitzvahs. Based on our actions. And if not, we'll pay a serious price. Because it could be a desecration of God's name, which is the most severe of all sins. So these are the fundamental things we learn in these parshas. We see from the Avos, Avram, Yitzhak, Yaakov, the Imahos, their great character traits. We have to embellish them. We have to work on them. Be like them. Use them as role models. And that'll help us reach the great potential that we have. So I want to remind everyone, I give a class every Tuesday. And Chovos Levavos, Studies of the Heart. In the gate of self... Gate of Cheshbon and Nefesh, self-accounting. That's every Tuesday, 9 o'clock Eastern Time. Every Sunday, packed day. I have class book of Leviticus, chapter 15. 9 o'clock Eastern Time, 4 o'clock Israel Time. And then Tanakh Talk on Sunday. That's going to be 12:30 Eastern Time, 7:30 Israel Time. It's controversial issues. I'm giving Noahide classes on Noahide nations. That's at 9:30 Eastern, 9:30 Israel Time, 2:30 Eastern Time. Also on Tuesday, Thursday, I have 2 Q&As, 10 o'clock Eastern Time, 5 o'clock Israel Time. Pirkei Avos every Saturday. That's going to be 2 o'clock Eastern Time, 9 o'clock Israel Time. I have conversion classes. Anyone interested in any of this, find me on Facebook, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, or Michael Chaim Kaufman. You can send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RABBICHAIMCOFFMAN @gmail.com.